I can't stand the rain against my window, bringing back sweet memories. Yeah, when the rain, do you remember how sweet it used to be?
You're listening to Tackling the Taboo, a journey of self-discovery through Black love. This is DJ Kool T.
And I'm DJ Dupsy. This is the first episode in a short series with myself and DJ Kool T. He's going to be opening up and sharing with us some of his life experiences growing up and living in the housing projects in Northeast Ohio. In this first episode, DJ Kool T is going to talk about the general setting, the backdrop, the environment, and how that impacts his psyche and mental health as a Black man, and how that might connect to others' experiences as well. Under our voices is I Can't Stand the Rain. It's the title track off the so-named album by Ann Peoples. You're listening to Tackling the Taboo, My Life in Sections, What's in a Name?
I can't stand the rain against my window. Just keeps on haunting me. Hey, get off my window.
Today I would actually like to share something that may be fairly common amongst us, and that is the battle within the battle of the projects. For those of us that live there, there are multiple battles going on there. Today I'm going to talk about one that affects particularly Black men who try to do the whole project thing correctly. When you try to go in and you know you're going to be in the project, but you still try to get the job and hold the job and all that. Okay, well, there's a whole torture behind that a lot of people don't understand. So when I lived with my ex-fiance, we were in the projects, and for all intents and purposes, our relationship was fine. But when you live in the projects, you don't have to have really interaction with anybody in order for that mindset and that the feeling of being in the projects to overtake you. Those of us who have lived there, you understand what I'm talking about. It's a whole different feeling when you live there. But in my case, where we lived at, I was on the lease, and that is particularly rare for some reason, to have Black men on the lease in the projects. That's not many. I was maybe one of 5 in 120. And when you live in the projects, first things first, if you're not married, woman is automatically the head of household, automatically. If you have children and you live in Ohio, whoever you have the children with, your woman, and you're not married, she automatically gets custody. So we're in this project together, and I'm already in a losing battle. That's the first thing that I know going in. She doesn't understand this because it's not affecting, it's not happening to her. For all intents and purposes, right now, she's getting, my ex-fiance, she's, getting the home, and we're getting the things that we need for the kids. So again, we're not, it's not a relationship issue. But it slowly becomes a relationship issue, because when you live there and you live there for months at a time, you start to notice things like, okay, let's say when the rent comes, the rent never comes in both of y'all's name. The rent only comes in her name, because she's the head of household. But you're the one working. In my case, I was the one working. So while I don't mind paying the bills, but I'm on the lease. And if bills are coming, they should come in both of our names. And that affects you mentally. It really does when you feel like you paying out money and you have no control over anything that happens in your household. No decision can be made by you. I couldn't go to the office and really request anything. And again, I'm on the lease. They didn't even really recognize me at all. And it's not that, they were bad people or anything like that. That's just how the projects work. It is geared toward the women. And I don't think that's too much of a problem. But when you're in my case and you try to do it the right way and you just constantly see this thing where you are treated as nothing more than a paycheck, like you don't get bills in your name. So, that means that you really don't have any control over anything. So, there are certain things that you can't even really do that require you to have a bill in your name in the place. Rent. Whenever rent comes out, it comes out of an account. Where we lived at, it was an account in her name that we would put money into that they would take the rent out of. But when I got paid more money, the rent went up. None of these accounts ever had my name on them. I never had any legitimate claim. Like if I needed to go pull a ledger that says, hey, I paid rent at this apartment for 5 years, I couldn't go pull that ledger because the rent doesn't say it was paid in my name. The rent says it was paid in her name. Technically, it was, but it was scaled with how I got paid. So again, I'm only recognized as a paycheck in my own home. And then slowly that starts to seep into her mindset. And she doesn't do it on purpose. I will again promise you that. She didn't do that on purpose. It just happened. It slowly happens when you live there. And as a black man trying to balance that, now, not only are you just a paycheck at home, you're only a paycheck where you live at. You have no peace. No peace, because every minute of your day is figuring out how you're going to make more money, because as soon as you make more money, they're going to take more money from you. But nothing you do is in your name, period. So you have no, I guess they will call credit history or anything. Again, when I go look for another apartment, I can't go pull the 5 years worth of rent that I paid back in Twinsburg because it's not in my name. And that's psychologically kind of damning, because it means that me and her split up and I'm leaving with nothing. She still has a place for the kids. And again, it's supposed to be for the kids. And I get that. I'm not arguing that. I understand that, which is why I don't have a problem with the child support or anything like that. But when you were there for the first 5 years and nothing you did mattered, that kind of messes with you. And then you see a lot of, that's why you see a lot of black men going Republican now. It's because of situations like that. It's not because of, I'm not blaming the women. I'm not blaming the women. I'm blaming the conditions that the women are being introduced to. They are being introduced into these conditions that allow them to do these things that aren't even in their control. They're not in their control, but whoever is in control is smart enough to know that little things like bills in somebody's name, small things like, just names on pieces of paper. They know small things like that matter. Now, I don't know who these days are, whoever runs this, Ben Carson at this point. But yeah, so it's not the women's fault. And then you have this whole divide in Black America right now between black men and black women. And that's part of it, is because a lot of us, a good majority of us, live in the projects. Let's not try to fake that. We live in those conditions. It might not be necessarily the project, but it's project conditions. So
it's not a mark on us, it's a mark on the system.
Yeah, it's not that we're fucked up or anything.
Right.
It's just that these are our conditions, and these are the consequences.
The system is fucked up.
Yeah, these are the consequences of our conditions. So me and her are starting to butt heads in the home now over little small stuff like that, because every day you wake up, you leave, you go to work, you come back, you feel no respect. They don't, whenever the people come in, maintenance comes in to do anything to the apartment, they don't talk to me. They don't even act like I live there. Like, at all. Like, name is all over the lease, but they don't act like I live there, because the only people they recognize is the woman and those kids. And you see a lot of black men who are like, well, the fuck? That, again, a lot of that is what's turning us into Republicans. A lot, that right there. And it's not, again.
It's also Walter White conditions. Breaking Bad.
Oh.
I mean, sometimes literally people turn to dealing dope.
Yeah.
But it's the conditions that, like, when you think, if you know the show Breaking Bad, in those dire conditions, right? Like, if you're put in the show, if you don't know the show, it was because the main character had cancer, and, like, the medical bills were stacking up. So he turns to a life of dealing meth in order to pay for his cancer. But that just turns into a whole Shakespearean saga. But it's what I now, in a pop culture kind of way, call Walter White conditions, right? And it's funny that it's Walter White. When you think about the systemic part that we're talking about, like when you're put into that condition, it's like, what, the choices that you have become so limited that you begin to rationalize anything, just like no matter what side of this current impeachment argument you're on. It's just the fact that look how people on either side, the lengths they go to rationalize things that are just like outside of the system. Looking in, it's like, what the fuck? Right? And so it's those Walter White conditions, quote unquote, where it's like, I can justify and rationalize Breaking Bad because what else, how else am I going to feel in control?
Yeah, pretty much.
I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor and even worse, I'm black. My stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch. Cops give a damn about a Negro. Pull a trigger, kill a nigga, he's a hero. Get it back to the kids who the hell cares. One less hungry mouth on the welfare. First ship them, don't let them deal with brothers. Give them guns, step back, watch them kill each other. It's time to fight back, that's what Huey said. 2 shots in the dark, now Huey's dead. I got love for my brothers, but we can never go nowhere unless we share with each other. We gotta start making changes. Learn to see me as a brother instead of 2 distant strangers. And that's how it's supposed to be. How can the devil take a brother if he's close to me? I let it go back to when we played as kids, but then changed. That's the way it is. Come on.
That's just the way it is.
The song Changes by Tupac featuring Talent. And this is pulled from the Greatest Hits 1998. We're going to get back into the discussion with DJ Kool T. He's going to talk about how the conditions which we've been discussing have an impact on the particular dynamic between black men and black women. Once again, I'm DJ Dupsy, and you're listening to Tackling the Taboo, My Life in Sections, What's in a Name?
Cause both black and white and smoke a crack tonight. And the only time we chill is when we kill each other. It takes skill to be real time to heal each other. And although it seems heaven sent, we ain't ready to see a black president. It ain't a secret, don't conceal the fact. The penitentiary's packed and it's filled with blacks. But some things will never change. Try to show another way, but it's staying in the dope game. Now tell me what's a mother to do. Being real don't appeal to the brother in you. You gotta operate the easy way.
I made a G today,
but you made it in a sleazy way. Sell it back to the kid.
I gotta get paid.
Well, hey, well, that's the way it is.
Come on.
That's just the way it is. Things will never be the same.
I mean, I guess if we're gonna put a name to it, the Walter White syndrome pretty much is the epitome of pretty much black men in America as a whole. Because I mean, on at least on my end, again, like I can't speak for all of the upper echelon of black people. I'm speaking from the if you work in a factory or if you flip burgers, like I've been there, done that. Like I'm speaking about us, people who really got to get up and grind, who got to find that motivation every single day. And while the black woman is the most educated people in America, we dumb niggas. No matter what we do, no matter how educated we are, we still dumb niggas for some reason. And I don't think we are even nearly at the levels of education that black women are. Maybe we're getting there, but I don't think we're at it. Or if we are, no one's talking about it. It's not a thing.
It depends on how you measure intelligence.
Yeah, but I mean, I have to go by when in Rome, and we are, Rome. So kind of I'm going to measure it by whatever criteria we use here in America, and usually that involves how much money you're making or what degree you took or the market, but that is valuable. And currently, the current market skills that are valuable, we don't have. Like that's all there is to it. We don't have them. I know that it offends people when you say, dude, you should learn programming. Dude, you should learn programming because this is where the market is going. I'm sorry that you're not going to be driving trucks anymore. I'm not going to be welding anymore. I know that, but we're not moving with that market. Black women, on the other hand, they moving with that market. They're creating new markets. That's not to say black men aren't, but in the visible spectrum is black women. So that's what I'm going by. What is seen, what is talked about, what is known. And again, that's another one of those things that like we don't, I don't know exactly when that happened. I would say roughly around 20, 30 years ago, around the time when like Section 8 and things became a thing, because now, for all intents and purposes, these women had time to either go to school or put their kids in a position to go to school. I mean, don't get me wrong, the projects was nothing miraculous, but every story that I hear is always some black woman that probably came from the projects because their mama probably lived in the projects because mama got that housing so they could go to school. And they didn't just fall into the meat grinder. They kept trying and got out. Black women have that opportunity. If you go to any projects, who are the houses? Black women. You might find one or two men, some white people, some Asian people, but mostly black women. This is probably why they're the most educated right now, because this is not an attack on black women. This is just merely pointing out the conditions that lead to what's happening now. Like, as soon as y'all got Section 8, 20, 30 years later, now you're the most educated people in America. Nobody sees correlation there. That's direct correlation. You have the housing. You have a home.
Basic needs.
Basic needs are being met. And then when you talk to black men, it's like, well, you guys should catch up. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Nigga, we've been pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps since World War II. How many times do we have to do that?
How many wars have we won for this country?
Yeah. How many times does a rival country have to keep trying to recruit black men? Because that's what they do. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. They want us. They want us bad. Why is Russia literally right now, pushing this whole civil war thing? All you gotta do is look it up. They're not even hiding it. Mm-hmm. It's not even being hidden. You can literally find the documents online that Russia is targeting black people because we're the minority group in America that is roughly 15 to 17% about the... Oh my God, just look it up. Look it up. The man was an ex-KGB agent. He knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And
it's been done before.
And it's been...
go back to the literal Civil War, right? And how the Confederacy was able to recruit black people to fight for the very slave masters
Yeah.
that once owned them,
Yeah.
right?
Wild.
Like, what kind of
Wild.
mental gymnastics?
Yeah. Wild.
So when we talk about, so that's when he talks about the conditions, right? That's what we're talking about, like, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, these are the conditions that this comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago just didn't pop out of a box this way.
It
This
is.
has been hundreds of years
Yeah.
of reforming, reshaping, molting, and rebranding of racism, sexism,
Yeah.
heterosexism, all the intersection, classism, like all of it. It's just a
All of
recreate. It just remorphs and re-evolves.
Yeah, it never
Um,
changes. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. You know, and oh man, it's kind of. Give me a second.
What's going on?
Oh, nothing.
Don't
Just-
say nothing.
Just was thinking about it, and words got jumbled in my head.
Mhm.
I was thinking one thing and wanted to say another, and lost
Okay.
my train of thought.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But again, that all ties back to, you know, us black men today. So if you think about all the reforms that happened in America, we're not even gonna say all. We'll take a couple. So back during, does anybody remember that movie with Daniel Day-Lewis and it is a really popular movie, Gangs of New York. Jesus Christ. Okay, so in Gangs of New York, now we're not going to talk about that movie, but that general time era, there were a lot of people in jail, a lot of young men in jail, and America was like, we got to fix this. So they started all these reforms to get all these young white men out of jail and reform them, and it worked. It worked miraculously. Fast forward a couple decades, it's done again and again and again. It just, every time that America does one of these reform type deals, black men are particularly left out. Okay, now again, not attacking black women, but if you look at the welfare thing, how many black men get welfare? How many black men, besides injuries, besides, let's say, injuries, besides dead, like conditions, you know, arthritis, things like that, you know, things where you literally can't work. You know, we all know the stories. We all know the stints of people who get welfare that can and are able to work. Okay, but if most of those people who get welfare are women, does that mean that a lot of these women are able to work? And they're just kind of getting this for no reason. Now, I don't have to, you know, attack anyone in particular. I'm sure this is on Google everywhere. You know, we see this all the time on World Star Hip Hop, and we know that this is kind of a thing. You know, so again, you know, we're in this position where, you know, during that 20, 30 years ago, because my parents were actually in the newspaper, as embarrassing as this is. My mom and dad were in the newspaper because they were among the first people in line in Akron, Ohio to get Section 8 housing. Like as soon as they signed up, my parents were out there ready for their Section 8 housing. You know, and it's like back then, when it started, you know, that was geared toward the women. Dad was just kind of a tag along. He was there, but, you know, he was light-skinned, so they probably thought he was white. I'm not even joking. So, it really didn't matter for him. But as I'm going through it, as a, you know, younger adult, it's amazing it's just amazing the level of composure. Like, I guess my dad was just happy to have a home, you know, and that's what I was just happy to have a home. But I can see where him and my mom started breaking up, and there are parallels. In fact, a lot of you who are in this position can probably find direct parallels between how you broke up and your daddy and your mama broke up. And you probably if you came from the projects, I guarantee you it started when you were in the projects, because that shit, much like anything mentally, is passed down through generations. It's a generational thing. Now we have a project mindset, you know, so I mean, it's sad that I already knew what I was getting into when I went into the projects. You know, I already knew what it was. Almost genetically predispositioned to be like, yep, this is home. That's a shitty feeling.
Yeah, One day I was sitting on the park bench out front of my apartment with my heart bent. Broad day, yeah, it's feeling like I'm sitting in the dark, wondering where the spark went. Then it popped in, a light bulb of an idea. Light years faster than the speed of the pace that my thoughts went. Then I thought, when do I ever feel still in the maze of the rap race? Not often, that pace, parallel to the feeling of exhaustion. It's sort of like coughing in coffins. No one would ever hear me, so why would they dig me? As I began to feel lost, then a young lady came and sat beside me. She asked the time and I replied now. It felt like a dream I had. So when you walk through the door, leave the city outside. Just leave it behind you. And when you lock the top lock, leave the city outside. Cause the gritty you find you. And when you lock the bottom lock, leave the city outside. Don't let it remind you. It's cold out there. The block be hot. It's cold out there. The block be hot. City outside. Shake my day off like I shake haters. Off the shoulder, the weight's off. Shoes off.
Thank you for listening to this first installment of Tackling the Taboo, My Life in Sections. We'll pick up with DJ Kool T in this series a little bit later in our season. Our next episode will jump back into our storyboard convention with myself and Dr. J. We'll be discussing the emotional and psychological impact of Black bodies being capitalized and traded for value. Here's a preview of Storyboard Convention in the Black.
Obviously, the selling of Black bodies, male and female, began with slavery, both the Atlantic slave trade as well as the Islamic slave trade. And it has manifested itself to the present day. It's still with us in various forms. So not only was it done to us, but in various ways we are doing it to ourselves. And so it goes back to what I talked about one of our first podcasts, which was the idea of Black self-love, that until we learn to love ourselves, everything we do is going to be this push-pull, or at the time, I think I said 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Let's change that to 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. So in other words, we make progress, but we're always making it harder for ourselves because we're fighting ourselves as we do it.
Once again, that was a preview of Storyboard Convention in the Black. Under my voice is the song Leave the City Outside by DJ Center featuring Odyssey, and this is pulled from the Chris Reed remix album. I'm DJ Dupsy, and until the next time we tackle the taboo, stay black and lovely.
And when you walk through the door, leave the city outside. Just leave it behind you. And when you lock the top lock, leave the city outside. Cause the gritty you find you. And when you lock the bottom lock, leave the city outside. Don't let it remind you, it's cold out there. The block be hot. It's cold out there. The block be hot. Leave the city outside.